Tune in to Real Animals at 10:30 a.m. Eastern every Sunday during Waypoint TV's Mornings on the Flats. Presented by Abyss Battery. Power your pursuit on Waypoint TV, the destination for outdoor entertainment.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the Western Hunting Hub podcast. It is T-minus days and weeks until elk season, bear season, whatever it is that you're headed out to go do. Antelope is probably already getting started by the time I release this. So we have the season upon us, and I decided I needed to get some good hunting stories in. So reached out on Instagram to some folks, and I got some replies and some good hunt stories. This one's an awesome story from Maxim Rand, a listener out of Colorado, and a great storyteller. Had a awesome first elk hunt, little trouble along the way, and had an awesome hunt. And so I was on the edge of my seat listening and enjoyed chatting with him about that. So give this episode a listen, and if you enjoyed it, give it a good rating if you would on whatever platform you're listening to. Also go give my Instagram and Facebook page at Western Hunting Hub a follow. Also, if you give my business a follow, Black Hills Antlers on Facebook and Instagram. And if you need some antler dog chews, 10% off of those. Use coupon code podcast. Also, go check out the Outdoor Call radio app. My old episodes are playing there on Thursdays, but lots of other outdoor content we're checking out. And then also always Ridge Patrol's giving us 10% off using Clint 10 and Wilderness Athlete using Hunting Hub as a coupon code. So let's get started, and I hope you enjoy. Max?
Most people call me Max, but like when I introduce myself, I go as Maxim just because it seems formal to me.
Sure.
I like it, and
sure,
it's unique.
Yep.
So,
Got it.
unluckily, I didn't grow up here in Colorado. I grew up in upstate New York, and I've lived out here now 10 years, but grew up there hunting, fishing, and moved out to Colorado after college for a job at the Forest Service, and then just didn't want to leave here, so I took whatever job I could to stay on the western slope of Colorado, and now I find myself in the Roaring Fork Valley in Aspen, and I'm maintaining a billionaire ranch up here. Not your typical ranch, but
yeah. No,
so
I spent a lot of time in that ranch, or in that, not that ranch, that valley.
Yeah.
So that's cool.
Yeah, I've been here 10 years, love it. And just, fell in love with elk hunting compared to whitetail hunting is just way more of a challenge, and I love that. But yeah, so my story comes from me wanting to pursue elk with a bow and never ever archery hunting back in New York before. So as soon as I moved out here, I brought my bow with me that I had and was always shooting it. Never got into, elk hunting that much before moving out here. So it was all new. So I did like 5 years of beginner elk hunting, just, learning the land, finding them and chasing them, and just never got one. And so then I gave up for 2 years on archery and went back to rifle chasing elk around here and all these, over-the-counter units, or were over-the-counter units.
Yeah, no joke.
And then I decided to pick my bow back up that year of 2020. And so then that's when this story starts. I didn't get to hunt opening day since they moved it to like the 2nd of September now, which falls whenever. So Saturday, first day for me, I get up, and luckily I live 2 miles from the trailhead. So it's really nice, I get to sleep in my own bed, and the spot I hunt is tough, but so got up, drove up there and I'm going solo, and I'm crossing the creek in the dusk, and it's a newer log that's across it, and I slip and go right into the creek waist deep, and I'm like, crap. So I was
Well,
like,
let's take a step back too. What's your plans? Are you thinking like I'm going in here for the afternoon, I'm going in here for a couple days, one day?
oh, so yeah, this is just a day hunt, this area I'm going
Sure.
in. So I have a day pack. You can make it as long a day as you want, or you could be in, and if they're not making noise, you could be out really
Yeah.
quick. Just get
Yeah.
up to this ridge, call, and see if they're around. So I've been in this spot plenty of times, chased a lot of elk in it, and it's just rough country. So yeah, and the first task getting in there is crossing this rather large, fast moving creek, and I first time ever fell in it. So I turned around, went home, was pretty disappointed. Luckily, my would be my fiance at the time, wife now. She was like, "Have another cup of coffee, change your clothes, and go for it," even though it was
Yeah.
later in the morning. So then I got up there. It was probably now closer just after 7 a.m. and I crossed the log now successfully. Definitely more cars in the parking lot, busier. Um, Not your average September day, definitely very hot. It was going to be in the 90s. So I had 3 liters of water with me, and I make my way up the hillside and climb up to the ridge. And I sit up there and call, bugle, nothing. And it's relatively quiet morning because then you could either drop over the other side of the ridge and be in him for the day if they were making noise in there. Otherwise, you just come back down the way you came up, and there's a bunch of benches to traverse. So I sit around just, waiting on this hillside most of the morning and then eat a good snack and get up and start making my way back towards my truck and, covering ground now.
Remind
So
me
this
what part of the September? Like right
this would have
away?
been the first weekend.
Oh,
Yeah,
sure.
right away.
Yep.
Early season. So I'm not expecting much with the weather being so hot and just, sheer amount of pressure from
Yeah.
COVID that year. Just a lot of people out there. So I start, just weaving my way through, and I'm being way more aggressive calling than I've ever have, just trying to be different and trying to, finally be successful. Um, so yeah, then I start doing some calling sequences later in the morning and nothing. And then I'm making my way across a bench, getting back to familiar territory because I just explored more of this area. And then I'm just cow calling as I'm going. And then all of a sudden, the about 100 yards down over the hillside on in between the benches, the brush just starts going crazy, popping, snapping. And I don't know what's going on. And I just get ready, knock an arrow, and then all of a sudden, cresting the hill, I see antlers, and I'm like, oh, this is perfect. Like, here's an elk coming right at me. And
Every
I know.
and let me ask a question. So we've got I almost it almost seems like as you're telling this that it's like your hopes weren't all that high
No, not at all. Not at all.
and that you are just kind of still hunting. Like what was your pace and
I was, yeah, moving super slow, stopping every 100 yards. It's thick, dark timber. So just
yeah,
thinking like my call isn't traveling that far. So let's just,
yeah.
be aggressive this first weekend and get after it and try and see what's out there. I know there's elk in here and
Did you have
um
a certain like and in that spot, do you have a certain location? Like I know they're kind of in this draw, or I just gotta kind of cover it to call and
um
they're gonna be there somewhere.
I mean they're either there or they're not, and
Yeah.
it seems more and more and more they're it's hit or miss where they're there one day,
Sure.
not the next, and it's just not as torn up as it used to be. They seem to have moved on and gone a little deeper into the mountains around the hillsides there, but finding some pockets of elk, they still once a lot of people get bouncing around and in there, they definitely bump the elk into these little nooks and crannies of the wilderness here. So I knew I could bump into something solo just because of the terrain and being in there a lot and seeing what's around and knowing where the main herd hangs out.
Yeah.
Um, like there's a chance you'd run into them, but most of the time you knew they'd be, you would, I didn't even smell this elk.
Huh.
So it
Are
was,
you in dense like timber or the aspen pockets or something?
you just, yes, super old aspen forest. Most of them are now like it's turning into a thicker timber,
Sure.
um, conifers and all that. So definitely changing, and that's why I think the elk have started to move out too. It's getting real thick for them.
Oh, yeah. Huh.
Um,
But yeah, so you
so
had some antlers coming through.
yeah,
You
and
had a
then
response.
yeah, yes, yeah, no call back, nothing, just movement, just coming right up the hill at me. So I knock an arrow and didn't even have a chance to get out a rangefinder. This is all happening within 25 yards of me. By the time he gets over the hill, crest, and then he turns and is coming straight at me. So I have full frontal. I draw back, and he's like 15 feet and not stopping. So I'm just, and I didn't even have to like count the antlers. I knew he's legal. Like everything was aligning. And I was like, I've seen this shot practice on YouTube, seen it on TV. I'm going to do it. And I just let my arrow fly at 15 feet, hits him straight in the chest. And I just see the arrow bury go and all
Oh
fletching
my gosh.
now. And I was like, that's the shot, like that's the one. Like, and I just was like, holy crap, this happened. It happened. And he spun around completely, went back the same direction he ran, and probably 75 yards before I heard the brush crashing and snapping. So I just sat down and luckily I had my phone, took like a video of myself, like was so excited in the moment and like just knew I should capture it because first time ever shooting an elk with a bow, like it's pretty crazy. I'm by myself and so I sit there and savor the moment and let 25 minutes, 30 minutes go by. But this elk, he was toast. Like there wasn't a after 10 minutes of sitting there wasn't any noise. So after those 25 minutes go by, I make my way down the hill and I find him and I'm just stoked. I start counting the antler points and I'm just like ecstatic. And like he was a 5x7, just a small, non-typical little bull. Like it was awesome. Like I counted them
Huh.
6 times, I think, before I was like, this is real. And then I was
Yeah.
like, okay, well, the work is going to start now. And this was at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, I realized. But after realizing it's 1 p.m., I was like, dang, this is a unique time to shoot an elk. So,
Yeah.
perfect time, amount of daylight left, which was nice. Except it was hot. It was 90 degrees. So I checked my water and I didn't have very much left to work with. Um, after doing the longer walk through the woods that day, started out with 3 liters. I can't even remember how much I had left by the time I had to start butchering, and there's no option of me finding water. It's just a very dry area. I would had to have gone pretty far to replenish my water. So I start butchering, and this is my first time butchering an elk. So I definitely learned a lot since then.
And no one to be there to help with that. The
Yeah,
first, yeah, doing
I,
I did my first one by myself as well. And that was it was a
it
challenge.
it was a lot of work. Luckily I had a tarp, so that helped. Being able to set that down and help my keep the meat clean and just try every technique I saw on the internet and put it together and make it work for me. Um, but then eventually I'm getting it quartered out and just running out of energy, running out of water, and I eventually do run out of water while butchering it and have to make the choice to like, okay, like I'm gonna leave this like leg attached to the rest of this quarter. And but before that I had luckily purchased a Garmin InReach and was using that for the first time, um and was messaging people for help, like seeing who could come meet me. But of course, no one knew how to respond back to me.
Oh,
So they were texting my normal phone number back because they had no clue I got this device. So I texting my wife, texting my best friend that I normally hunt with, letting my dad know that I got an elk, all this, and um, just hoping someone was gonna respond and say they're gonna come. So the but I get no response. So then I'm out of water and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna leave this elk here. Like I can take I took the head because the last time my buddy was in this area hunting, a bear stole his head after he had it tied up in a tree, and he never found it, and then we found it like 3 years later.
yeah.
So I was like, I'm not leaving my first elk here.
Yeah.
So I took I think like a front shoulder, some back straps, the head, and I was so tired I couldn't even pick the hind quarters up to get him up in a tree. I was just exhausted. And I knew for my safety, like I just had to go get water. Um, and I took my tarp, put the quarters around a tree, wrapped my tarp around them to try and keep any animals that are in game bags, and just keep my scent on them because I know a bear. And I was like, well, if I'll get them in the morning, like, and hopefully they survive. So then I'm all loaded down with the head, all that meat, in my bow, and I start making my way down. And it's a good, probably, I'm a good mile and a quarter, 800 feet vertical
Mm.
descent down to at least the trail. So I'm making my way down, just slowly exhausted, just wishing I had water. But there's a creek I'm gonna cross, but I don't risk it. But prior to that is when I slip and I'm coming down this hill and I slip and the young dead aspen just pokes me in the back of the ear and I'm just like, oh man, that was painful. And then I just felt the warm sensation and I was like, oh, that's not good. And I just grabbed the back of my ear and I was like, I'm covered in blood. I'm like, that's not good. I could feel it flapping. And I was like, well, um, I need to make a decision here. I'm pretty close to the trail. Either I stop, take my pack off, break out my first aid kit, and put some like blood clotting stuff on it that I had in there. Um, and I chose to just leave my bow. I marked it on my GPS. It would have taken me longer probably to get all that out, repack it, and then make my way back down to the trail. So, I'm making sure I'm not like pouring blood, not squirting. It's just running down the side of my neck. I know this is a good cut that I'm going to need some medical attention. Um, I didn't even stop to message anyone on my inReach. I just wanted to get to the trail. And I'm getting to the trail. I crossed the creek and I decided not to drink any of the water because I was like, I'm close enough to home. Another 15 minutes of thirst is not going to kill me. I'd rather not get Giardia. Like, let's just wait. Maybe I'll come across someone.
Yeah.
So I crossed the creek and it's waist deep. It feels so good. Like, I just want to stop and sit in it. But I knew if I stop, I'm just going to not want to get up. So I'm probably 100 yards off the trail, the main trail up this valley, and I'm just exhausted. Got nothing left in the tank. I ditched the head, just toss it on the ground, say I'll see you in the morning, and just start plowing my way through the thick brush and crawl my way up onto the trail and sit on it for a minute and look for someone. No one's coming, so I get up and I just start walking and I find the first little feeder creek coming down off the opposite side, and then I just start cleaning myself off and it's just turning it red. And I was like, well, this is not good. It's either my blood or elk blood, probably both. And I start walking down the trail and look over and these people are looking at me and I'm like, I'm fine, like I'm not dying, like, because they were definitely like, what the heck is going on with this? Like,
a typical Roaring Fork Valley Aspen area.
yeah,
I'm sure
they were not hunters.
they're not that one. They probably weren't having it, but Maybe it was good that you were bleeding, so they had a little bit of sympathy and like, oh, you are human.
Yeah, yeah.
Are you
Because like
okay?
I didn't have a bow. I didn't have like they're like probably like what the heck. Um, so then I just keep trudging down the trail. And I popped out way further down the trail than I went in. So I probably had a mile walk back to my vehicle. And probably halfway down that walk, I see my wife walking the other way, and I, with all my energy, just yell her name, and I'm like, Jen, and she like hears me and turns around and is like, oh my God, is that your blood? Is that elk blood? I'm like, it's probably everything. I'm like, do you have water? I'm like, I just want some water. Luckily, I believe she had a jug of water with her. I drank all that and cleaned myself up a little, and she checked out my cut and was like, yeah, you're probably gonna need some stitches in the back of your ear. Like your earlobe is totally like detached from the backside.
Oh,
Like it
dang.
wasn't fully dangling, but it was pretty detached. But then she goes, did you see Kyle? I was like, that's the person I was texting. I was like, no. And she was like, well, his truck is in the parking lot full of coolers. And I was like, oh, no way. He must have got my messages. Um, so we make our way back down, leave my truck at the trailhead, go in her car, get back to our apartment that we're renting. And our landlords are helping us with the meat, trying to get it in coolers so that we can head to the hospital. So this is Labor Day weekend. So I get to the emergency room and didn't realize that it's pretty busy on Labor Day weekend. And I guess my injury wasn't as bad as what they were dealing with. So I sat there, I think for 4 or 5 hours before I got treated. And I ended up getting 6 stitches in the back of my ear. And then after that, got all my phone charged back up, was texting my buddy who ended up going back up, and he packed out the rest of my elk.
Oh,
So
dang. He found
yeah,
it.
he
He,
found it with the coordinates from my inReach
that's
and
awesome.
was standing there where I shot mine. And he's like, wow, this is literally 50 feet from where he shot his probably 3 years prior. So it's just a weird coincidence.
He knew
Um,
the area.
yeah, as soon as he was there, he knew where he was, and luckily he saw my blue tarp, so he grabbed the rest of that. And then I didn't know at the time, but there is no ice in the Roaring Fork Valley, so he couldn't find ice since I think that's right when we were dealing with the canyon fire and all that.
Oh,
So we
yeah.
were always running out of stuff, so we had no ice. So he's
After years of fine print contracts and getting ripped off by big wireless providers, if we've learned anything, it's that there's always a catch. So when I first heard that Mint Mobile offers premium wireless starting at just $15 a month, I thought, what's the catch? But after talking to them and using their service, it all made sense. There isn't one. Mint Mobile's secret sauce is that they're the first company to sell wireless service online only. They cut out the cost of retail stores and pass those sweet savings directly to you. For anyone who hates their phone bill, Mint Mobile offers premium wireless for just $15 a month. I was hesitant about having to get a new phone and a new phone number, but with Mint, you can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and keep your same phone and your same phone number along with all of your existing contacts. Mint Mobile gives you the best rate whether you're buying for one or for a family, and at Mint, families start at 2 lines. All plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. Switch to Mint Mobile and get premium wireless service starting at just $15 a month. To get your new wireless plan for just $15 a month and to get the plan shipped to your door for free, go to mintmobile.com/waypoint. That is mintmobile.com/waypoint. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/waypoint.
texting me trying to drive around, find ice, and he's like, finally, I gotta go home and go to bed. I'm exhausted. Like, because he went in, grabbed the rest, came out all in that afternoon. So they threw it in freezers and or refrigerators that had room at my landlord's house, and dumped as many ice packs on the meat until we could find ice that night. And after leaving the hospital at some obscure gas station, and then met up with my buddy the next day and drank a beer and talked about the hunt, and we went all back together to go find the antlers and the head and my bow, and called it success, and glad for the new technology out there of InReach, and now he's got one and knows how to use it, and I still definitely have a scar on my ear from that hunt.
Yeah. No, God dang, a few questions. So like, what was this stick? Like, I've had a couple of those where you just get jabbed and it's like, God dang, that hurt. And but like, who gets cut in their earlobe?
It's almost like a groused off like aspen sapling. And like super sharp. Like I was like coming over a log and like slipped and like sat down on the log, and it just caught me just right and went like right up the back of my ear here and caught there and just poked right up and in and just tore the lobe on the backside.
Did you ever think about like falling a little different on it and how it had a different turnout?
Oh, I know. I was like, dang, I got pretty lucky with what could have. If I completely went backwards, I could have been, picking my ear up off the ground, or it, totally into me.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's, there's always freak stuff happening out there, and it's good to be prepared. That's why I had that first aid kit, and first time having the blood clotting stuff with me, and I was kind of happy to have it, but also glad I didn't really have to use it.
Yeah, the quick clot stuff.
Yeah.
So you didn't try it, or you did try it?
I didn't, because it was buried in my backpack, and I didn't want to stop and dig it out, because I was just, every minute felt like an hour just trying to come down that hill. Like I've never been so exhausted, and it took me a few days to recover after that from exhaustion and cramping.
How many trips did your buddy have left?
He did one.
One?
Yeah, we were.
And what was that crazy. that he pulled out of there?
2 hinds and a shoulder.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
and a young bull, but that doesn't matter.
No.
I've weighed 2 hindquarters on a young bull, and those are 50 pounds each.
Oh, definitely.
And then you got a front quarter, which is like 35 pounds.
Yeah.
So your buddy was pushing 150.
Yeah, we've done it a couple times, and it's definitely catching up to us.
Yeah, it does. It really does. The degenerative disc disease and herniated disc in my back has made me not so stubborn and just like throw the weight on and go. But God dang, that's a lot of weight.
And it was bone in because he didn't know what he was coming into. And I ran out of energy, and one still had the whole hoof on it too.
Yeah. Dang. Yeah. 2 things. What an awesome buddy. And then
I know.
and then you married the girl that told you to go back in there to go kill the thing.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
So nice work on your friend, and finding a good lady that'll take care of you and tell you to get after it. So when you're kind of down in just having one little bump in the road there to make something happen, and sometimes that all that is that little go after it. And that's been my goal in the last couple of years, is having always trying to be on. Like I can't just shut off. Even for that last mile back to the truck, you need to stay on your game, because you never know when something's going to happen. And I can totally feel the amount of motivation I might have had had I started the day at when you did, let's just say 10 or whatever that was, 9, 10, and later in that morning, early September, in a place where there was already other vehicles, it's like my motivation is probably going to be a little bit lower, but I keep telling myself in that last year or two is like, I need to stay on. You never know what's going to happen. And so that I think is a really good takeaway, as well as a few other things just on this story. And as soon as you said you saw antlers coming through, that just made me tune in like, oh, what can I learn? Like, I need to learn. Okay, you had something. That's your first bull, but you had something that worked there, and that was just going with the plan, going in and rolling with it. And sure enough, instead of sleeping under a tree, that bull was up. And I'm sure Labor Day weekend, he was either leaving his cows that are bedded or he was still cruising looking for cows, because I see those bulls, they're like with cows and they're not, and then they're with them, they're not, they're still, the herd dynamics are all over the place, and those are fun I love watching that. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially in this terrain, it's just, they're either with their cows or they just completely move over the mountainside and leave them.
Yeah. Yeah. And then with the shot, was there just blood everywhere with that shot?
Oh yeah.
Really?
Yeah. I when I gutted them, or I didn't gut them open, but I went to go in and try and find the heart, and it was just annihilated, like nothing left to take home, which was disappointing.
Yeah. How far did he go then, you said?
Downhill 75 yards, and that was it.
With those heart shots, I see a lot more with deer, but all those heart shots, they inevitably run. It's like they always are running. They are dead as a doornail that whole time, but just that adrenaline rush just gets them going, and it's always at 50 to 75 yards for a heart shot is what I've seen over and over and over again. Rifle, bow, doesn't matter. And then they tip over. But that's awesome that he was gushing blood. And
oh yeah, he would have run me right over if I didn't pull the
oh my god. And 15 feet or 15 yards or whatever, so all pins on him, just kind of
I just happened so fast. I just put the first pin. It was my first bow. I was shooting a diamond, so it wasn't like top of the line. I was just getting into it, and I was only practicing out to like 25 yards, and I was like, okay, I know I can bring them into 25 yards. I know I can. So that's all I could practice to where I was living. And so when it came into 15 feet, I was like, well, you don't practice these close shots.
Yeah.
Really. So
yeah, there's such a big difference when you always practice at 20. Like 20 is your like, here's my starting point. When you come into 10, it's like this an inch low is what it seems like. And then once you get up to 9, 8, 7, things get weird. 5 yards, it gets real weird. 5 yards is like use your 60 pin, 50 pin at point blank range. It's really just your that arrow is going up. So instead of it's still in that process of going up or whatever it is. So it's just such a weird thing to reverse that process and go, oh, I gotta hold in a weird spot, just like out of a tree stand. I mean, that's something you'd been doing in New York for or had you bow hunted in New York?
No, not at all. I never got the opportunity. Being in school through September in college, I just never got a chance to do it. Just the way rifle season fell, I was home for Thanksgiving, so I just always did rifle season.
Yeah, that was new. Someone mentioned that to me the other day too about hunting in New York. Buddy's going this year, and he said he got an invite to go. He's like, oh, I'm gonna go over there, and has a lot of property, and I don't know how big a deer there are over there, or good deer, or just good opportunities, or not at all. But was that something where you'd see a lot of deer in those kind of hunts growing up, or is it just like seldomly
Yeah,
do you see. What's that
I
like?
mean, we hunted a lot of private land, so we had a lot of access to friends' property, and then my dad had been hunting this one parcel that I got to hunt for probably 25 years, 30 years. And yeah, we shot, I think, uh one of the last 8 pointers I shot out of the tree was like the seventh or eighth 8 pointer that has been taken from that corner of that field.
Huh.
So definitely, produce big deer in certain areas.
Yeah.
And you could shoot is a lot. Like I
Yeah.
think I would get 4 doe tags, and by the end of the season, with the rifle season, you had a buck tag, and then muzzle loader, you had a buck tag. Like you'd be tagged out,
Yeah.
and they are good tasting. I definitely miss a good whitetail.
Yeah, for sure. What'd you go to school for?
I went to school for forestry and recreation.
Oh, sure. Yeah, there was I was so stubborn. I still wanted to go out and do stuff while I was in school. Were you a ways from places to hunt once you went to school?
Yeah, so we were allowed to bring our rifle to college with us, and we could
Oh,
lock it up
wow.
in the school armory. But I didn't bring one until I got like settled into the whole school thing until like my junior year, and that
Yeah.
was up in the Adirondacks, and that was a totally a different game of hunting. Like
Hmm.
there's way fewer deer, but definitely big deer.
Hmm.
Um, and I
Interesting.
never got an opportunity to shoot one up there, but definitely hope to go back one day.
Yeah. So what's happened since then? That was fall 2020. You had 2 seasons since then.
Yeah, treated myself to a new bow, so I got myself a prime and was shooting
Nice.
that um last season, and then the season prior to that I was still on the diamond, and got into some elk, but just couldn't uh capitalize. And then I shouldered one with an arrow and decided to call it a season after that. Again at like 15 feet, called
Jeez.
them in some thick brush. It just, I don't know why it didn't penetrate, but after that, that's why I decided to step up and get myself a new bow and um, really be able to shoot some further distances. So after that season would be 21. Now, 2022, I had a archery deer tag for Unit 43 here in Colorado, and decided to hunt the Maroon Bells Wilderness with that, and backpacked in, and was lucky enough to shoot one by 8 a.m. opening morning
Oh,
at
wow.
55 yards. Yeah,
51 yards.
yeah, yeah.
Heck yeah. And so what was that guy? Another little smaller
A
one or
little 4x4 with a little cheater
perfect.
point, still velvet, and that's all I wanted was to find a velvet buck. We got in the night before opening day, and literally there's 12 bucks within 100 yards of where we were gonna camp. Um, so my wife and I again were out, so she helped me set up camp, and I was able to glass and watch them. And if I they would have fed right into our camp if I didn't have to get up from my glassing spot to go to bed. Like
Huh.
they would come right in there. So they sensed us and took off, and I was able to then find them again the next morning and put on the perfect stock and get that done. And but
Was-
the only thing was we were prepared for 4 days, so we still had all that food and weight to pack back out the
Yeah.
same. So we only spent one night and was able to pack that deer out.
Do
And
did
shot.
did you go, was that above tree line?
Yeah, I shot
Oh
that deer at
man.
12,000 feet.
I looked at that tag over and over again and thought about it. It just never worked out, and maybe
Yeah,
someday. Not necessarily there. I mean, it's a good place, but I mean, there's a lot of really great places above tree line, and I think that one's a little easier to draw, isn't it?
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah,
I mean, you can get lucky as a resident and get it with no points.
yeah,
But I didn't this year, so
yeah.
I don't have a deer tag this year, unfortunately.
Oh, dang.
And the next weekend I was able to tag out on a cow elk. So I
Oh,
was
nice.
done in the first 10 days of the archery season, which was super good feeling, like
Yeah.
to be successful. And um
Cow hunt and elk with a bow is a different game. Like, what did
so
you
I
call
was
in?
looking, yeah, I had a either sex tag and just decided to take my opportunity and
Yeah.
take a cow because it was going to be an easier pack out than anything we've ever done. So figured take that and get
Yeah.
that and have the rest of my September to enjoy and go fishing and
Yeah.
normally stuff I don't get to do.
Buddies or anyone else have any good or what's going on this fall? You or your buddies got
Oh,
any good
well,
tags?
so yeah, then I paid it forward for my buddy that helped haul out that elk, first elk of mine. He drew an Uncompadre bull tag for 61
Oh,
last.
wow.
So we had a fourth season, so I gave up my Thanksgiving and hunted with him, and we got it done the second to last day of the season, and he shot a really decent bull. Nothing, not a slammer, but good bull for what's there now.
Yeah.
That was definitely a heck of a pack out too. So we're even now.
Yeah. No. That's awesome. It's great to have a good community there of folks you can hunt with, folks you can help pack out and do all that sort of stuff with. So that's
Yeah,
good. Now you guys are gonna learn. You
it's
learn a
tough to
lot
find.
more. Oh, it's very tough to find out. I don't really have
Yeah,
it. It's a tough thing to find. Good buddies that you can spend some time on each other's tags. That's the cool thing is the amount of learning you can do on. And if someone's spending a lot of time learning an area, and then you go in there with them and you hunt it, and you bring that skill back to where you hunt. And uh, yeah, I don't have a lot of buddies that actually put in for any of those more difficult to draw tags because they just don't do the preference point stuff. And so it's kind of a bummer. It's like I'm missing out on that opportunity too. Tell you, put in for this stuff. You can
yeah.
go.
He's been lucky. He drew a desert bighorn sheep right when I first met him, and he borrowed my raft and was able to float to Colorado to get that done. So he's
Oh,
done
dang.
some stuff, and he's a little older than me, so hopefully I'll still get to do those same hunts that he's done.
Yeah, hopefully.
But yeah, this year I got lucky and I drew a cow moose archery tag.
You did.
Yeah.
We're talking about all this, and you got a moose tag.
Yeah. Yeah. So I got
Dang.
lucky. They called me up after the draw and was like, someone turned their tag in. Do you want it? I was like, uh, yeah,
Yeah.
I'll take it because it's right where I live here. It's one of the new units they opened
Yeah.
this season. So I was like, that's a good opportunity, I think, to jump on a moose. And because I didn't ever think I would shoot a bull here,
Yeah.
ever, but I just was putting in for it anyway. And then they opened this whole area by Aspen and I
Yep.
got lucky. So I'm gonna try and find a cow moose this fall too and an elk.
The moose population in that area is just blown up. It's just 42, 43. That area, whole mesa there, just more and more elk just showing up, and which
Yeah.
is so cool. I love to see that. I don't really know how they're doing in other Western states, but it doesn't seem to be growing like Colorado's is. Um, unless
I
our
see more and more and more moose and elk every time I'm out backpacking. And the 10 years I've been here, and you used to see them a lot in other areas, and they've definitely moved their territories. I think they've adjusted to the, definite influx of recreation here, but there's still a lot of elk to be found.
yeah. Well, don't pack out 3/4 of a moose.
No, I was already planning for help and definitely getting a frame pack for
Yep.
this one.
Yep, for sure. You're gonna need something good
Yeah,
to be able to
and
hold that
definitely
kind of
not
weight.
too far. I'm trying to limit it to
Yeah.
not too far from
Yeah,
the AAA road.
I almost imagine like that. It's like cow moose are the one thing I'm kind of nervous about in Colorado.
Yeah.
Like some level of concern to have for those things. 'Cause like whenever I saw a calf elk, or not calf elk, calf moose there, I was like, okay, I am getting out of here. I don't know where mama's at, or if you're just out on your own now or whatever, but see those, or you see a cow moose and you just have a different level of respect for those.
Yeah, steer clear for sure. And that's where I was like, well, this will be a challenge to find a cow that doesn't have a calf.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, it's definitely a big challenge because there's definitely no calling, and I guess the moose rut is like so different in Colorado compared to like a normal moose rut.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
I'm up for the challenge, and I know they're here.
yeah, you got to keep me updated on what you find, see, whatever. That'd be kind of cool.
I
And
will.
and that's September, the same
Yeah,
season?
it's a week shorter than elk season, so they give you the first week of elk, and then that second Saturday, I believe it opens for moose archery.
Well, sweet. Well, I'll be about 2 hours northwest of you, somewhere in there, for the first half of the month, trying to figure that out. But I can only imagine the amount of pressure we're going to be dealing with. It's going to be kind of rough. But
Yeah, that's why I changed my tactics. I was normally an OTC hunter, but with that change on the Grand Mesa, I totally changed my tactics.
yeah,
For a limited elk tag this year.
yeah, and I'm gonna start doing the same. This is told my dad's like, this is the last season we're doing over the counter. We're not necessarily done with Colorado. It's gonna try Montana next year if we can draw that, or but really starting to spread that out. But yeah, I've said it over and over again. Over the counter in Colorado is a ticking time bomb, and that's done. I think opportunity there's a lot of people still finding lots of success, but I don't know what's going to happen when you just drop 5 units of the Grand Mesa. And
yeah, it's gonna make 43. I think really, really, really crowded.
and how many people know that right now? Like, there's people that probably still don't know that that's the case, and they're gonna roll in, and I guarantee you there's going to be a pile of people still going and hunting some of those places and doing it illegally, unknowingly.
Yeah.
But or they're going to find out last minute and then they're scrambling to find a spot, or they go home or whatever.
Yeah, I wish the Frying Pan Wilderness area got as much stink as when they removed that as the Grand Mesa.
Yeah, that had that reputation though of a diminishing elk herd. In that south of Eagle there and in the Meredith area and whatever else. So it was diminishing, and so I don't think as many people were, and that's rough country. That's pretty rough country. But well, we'll wrap that up, and man, I can't wait to hear what happens next. So I appreciate you telling an awesome story, and this is in perfect time for the season, which is right around the corner. So I can't believe it's there. I got a couple packages that came just today or yesterday of a few things I needed for the season, and shooting broadheads. So it's time to 3D shoots are done. Time to mess around with broadheads, make sure things are good. But yeah. So yeah, thanks so much for coming on, and we'll have to have you on again. That was fun.
Yeah, I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun. Thanks for having me.
You bet.
To the land, but it ain't my ground. This is God's country.